Week 18 favorite bets. I am your host, Sean Moran, and I am joined by my good friend and my co-host, Aidan Holler. Aidan, happy Friday, man. How we doing?
Happy Friday, sir. I'm doing well. I feel like I'm gearing up for battle this weekend. Big game for Justin Fields, legacy game. Feeling good though. There's some pretty stinky matchups out there, but I'm excited to cover a couple of really fun ones this weekend. There's some huge implications, couple winning it in stuff. So we've got treated to a couple Saturday games. So yeah, big weekend to pop down on the couch and kind of practice your playoff routine. Big time.
No Thursday night football. Is there a Monday night game this week?
No.
Yeah, weird. So we're just getting Saturday, Sunday. We're
Yeah.
mainlining football.
No
I love
football
that.
last night was weird.
It was weird. I
Popped
kind of
into a
liked
bar
it.
before dinner and no one was there. It was just like basketball on, like no one was there. I was like, I don't like this.
I was forced to watch my Warriors blow 18-point fourth quarter lead. So that was a good time.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
Yeah, Jonathan Kuminga and Steve Kerr beefing. But hey, let's talk about the NFL, a sport that people
Talking pigskin.
care way more about. On today's episode of the Regression to the Mean podcast, we are previewing the top games on the slate in Week 18. We have 3 great matchups that we're going to preview. And in those matchups, we're going to go over some of our favorite bets and props. We're also going to cover some of our favorite incentive-based prop bets for the last week of the regular season. Hey, a lot of guys are resting. 49ers are resting their guys. The Rams are resting almost to your guys. Ravens, a lot of teams are resting guys. Patrick Mahomes isn't playing this week, I don't think. So a lot is going to be wonky with this slate, but there are still a lot of big names out there that have a lot of money-based incentives or records on the line that they're going after that we want to make sure you are well aware of when you are building out your prop bets. But before we dive into Week 18, today's episode of the Regression to the Mean podcast is brought to you by Chalkboard Fantasy Sports. We can't stop playing this chalkboard picks game, Aiden. We just keep chalking our board nonstop.
Chalking my board
every day. You can win up to 100x your money by simply choosing more or less on the projected stat lines of your favorite NFL players. You think of it as like a prize picks or a pick 'em lobby with Underdog. But what makes Chalkboard Picks unique compared to the other people in the space is the fact that you can take alternate lines. Alternate lines are incredible. For example, Terry McLaurin needs 54 receiving yards to get to 1,000 receiving yards for the season. Kind of seems like a slam dunk that he's going to get it. On Chalkboard, his line is actually set at 54.5. So it's like, I see what you're doing there. But you can take his line all the way down to 39.5. He needs to get over 39.5 to get to 1,000. Kind of feels like a no-brainer, right? So we're going to be featuring a lot of Terry McLaurin over 39.5 later in this episode for when we're building out slips. But that's an example of why Chalkboard is great. If you haven't played on Chalkboard yet and you want to get on the action, in the link to the description of this episode, you can download the app. And when you make your first deposit on Chalkboard and use promo code RTM, you can double your money up to $100. Put in 50, get 50 back. Let's have a great Week 18. Aiden, you ready to cover some of the top matchups here on the slate this weekend?
Let's do it. I was born ready.
All right. Remember, promo code RTM, double the first deposit. Chalkboard Sports, link in the description of this video.
Bingo.
All right. Top 3 matchups. Aiden, we have the Dolphins versus the Bills. We have the Bears versus the Packers. And we have the Texans versus the Colts. I think the biggest game on the slate, and it's on Sunday night for a reason, is the Dolphins versus the Bills. You, my friend, are going to tell us all about how we should be watching this game, some of your favorite betting angles, and some of your favorite prop bets. So where do we start? Dolphins versus Bills, Aiden.
Yep. So yeah, this is the Sunday night slot for a reason. Absolutely massive implications here. Just for starters, the winner here wins the division. You win and take the division. The Dolphins have already clinched a playoff berth. The Bills have not. There is a scenario where the Bills could lose and miss out. They would need some help if they lost. They would need the Steelers or Jags to lose as well. So both teams likely to go to the playoffs, but you want to win that division. You want at least one home playoff game. So absolutely massive game. Given it's a divisional matchup, they've already played once. Back in week 4, the Bills beat the brakes off of them back in Buffalo. It was 48-20, absolute pure and utter domination. So maybe we see some more of the same. Maybe Dolphins get right at home. Looking at the spread and total on this one, Bills opened as 2.5 point favorites. Hasn't moved at all yet, so pretty consistent there, which feels right. I think the Bills are the better team right now, but they are away. And, you got to take that into account. The Bills are 6-10 against the spread and 2-5 away from their home field. So really not a great ATS team this year. If you've been betting against them, you've probably been profitable. Dolphins are the opposite. They're 10-6 ATS and 6-2 at home. So more favorable in terms of betting the Dolphins at home this year. Looking at the total, very high. I think it might be the highest total on the slate. I forgot to look at some of the other ones. It opened at 48.5 and has been pumped up another point up to 49.5. The Dolphins are 9-5 versus the total, hitting the over, 4-4 as the home team. So not much of an advantage there. Bills again 6-10 against the over. So pretty defensive team there. Not typically catching the over. 3-4 as the away team. This is going to be a good one. I've got some more stats here. Personally, if I had to take anything here, I'm probably leaning the Bills. Dolphins are going to be without a few pretty pivotal defenders. On Sunday, we know Chubb went down at the end of last week's blowout game, which absolute disaster. You could argue maybe he didn't need to be out there to start with, but
down 30, they lose their best pass rusher, and they already lost their other best pass rusher in Jalen Phillips. They had 18 guys on the injury report on Tuesday.
There was no reason for him to be out there. Just to make matters worse, their top cornerback, I guess not top,
second best,
one of their top cornerback. Yeah, you still got Ramsey out there. Xavier Howard will not be playing either, so we are without a couple of huge players in that matchup. Just looking at the Dolphins versus Bills on paper in terms of offensive and defensive efficiency. The Bills have scored the sixth most amount of points per game, with the fourth best defense in terms of points allowed. Dolphins, no surprise, are the high scoring offense in the NFL with the 21st worst defense. So on offense, they match up pretty well. Defense is a pretty big disparity here. Add in those injuries as well. And again, I'm personally leaning Bills. There's a couple props that I really like in this game. I want to lay out three of them. It's actually a slip that I put together that I really like. There's three different angles here. To start with, Josh Allen anytime touchdown score.
I love that. I love
as much Josh shit Allen. As Jalen Hurts has been getting for the tush push. The Bills are quietly doing it a lot lately. He's scored a rushing touchdown in all but 4 games this season, including 10 of his last 11 games. Sure, you could say he's going to regress negatively. I don't think so. I think this is just a trend. You've got your 6'5" quarterback. You get inside the 2-yard line. It's not even just tush pushes too. It's just like design QB, draws, sweeps. Josh Allen's a maniac, and you get inside the 5-yard line, you can kind of count on him to catch one of those.
And then something too with that one, Aidan, is Allen and Hurts are tied for the most rushing touchdowns ever in a season for a quarterback. So there's probably incentive for Allen to try and break this record. It's probably not, top of mind, but these guys know it's at stake here. I love Josh Allen anytime touchdown because of that as well.
Yep. Yeah, you beat me to it. The next one I have is Diggs. I know some people probably growling. It's been a tough go at it for Diggs the last 6, 7, 8 weeks. I think he's going to show up. I think he's showing up this week. I've got him over 60.5 receiving yards. In Chalkboard, as we talked about, you can manipulate the line a little bit. You can take him all the way down to 39.5 or as high as 89.5 if you'd really like. Back in week 4, his stat line, he had 6 catches for 120 yards and 3 touchdowns. Absolutely torched them, and this defense is as vulnerable as it's ever been. He hasn't hit that 60-yard mark in 5 of his last 7 games. So again, I'm kind of banking on some positive regression here. Stephon Diggs is a gamer. Keegan couldn't make it today, but he's like tossing Stephon Diggs anytime touchdown score. Big time players make big time plays in big time games. So I'm going with the yards. I wouldn't be surprised if he makes it in the end zone, but I like the yards. And I'm going to cap it off with a little action with Tua. Tua's passing yardage mark is 265.5. This is one that I'm personally going to actually take down myself. You can get him as low as 224 or as high as 299. He did pass for 282 yards in this first matchup back in week 4. So I'm taking this one all the way down to 224.5, which he's cleared in 6 of the 7 weeks since their week 10 bye. Pretty consistent there, but a lot of outings around like the 240, 250 mark. So if you're taking the 265.5 yard mark, it's been a little dicey there. He's, about 50-50 since that bye, but I like 224 a lot there. Toss all three of those together on Chalkboard. $20 nets you 67. So really like these ones. I like the data behind them. Just 3 legs, nothing too crazy, but that is my Chalkboard slip for this game. What do you think?
So you've got Josh Allen anytime touchdown.
Yep. Diggs over 60.5.
Diggs over 60.5.
And Tua over 224.
Over 224.5. Okay.
Yep.
I like that. That all seems pretty manageable. Some of my notes for this matchup: Xavier Howard's out, as we already mentioned. Bradley Chubb's out. Jalen Phillips is already hurt. Super banged up on defense. We just saw Justice Hill absolutely cook this team through the air. I think James Cook could have a nice receiving game. And we just saw Eli Apple get abused by the Ravens. I think Stephon Diggs, if there was ever a game for him to bounce back with their season on the line, considering that if the Bills lose this game and the Steelers win and the Jags win, the Bills don't make the playoffs. And if the Bills win this game, they win the division and they're the 2 seed or the 3 seed, right? So very, very big game, 3 seed. Very big game here right now for the Bills. So I think that they're going to have to go to their studs. Their studs are James Cook, their studs are Josh Allen, and their studs are Stephon Diggs. I think those 3 have a big game. And looking on the other side of the ball for the Miami Dolphins and their offensive line super banged up. Jalen Waddle's probably out. Tyreek Hill's still nursing a high ankle sprain. His house started burning down this week. And I thought the craziest thing about his house burning was they showed the camera footage of like the helicopter. Hill was in a walking boot. So this guy just spends his week in a walking boot and then he goes out and plays. It means he's got a high ankle sprain. And I know people have been reporting it as a high ankle sprain. He's been playing through that. It's a really big deal. I know Tyreek is like 260 yards away from breaking the single season receiving yardage record. Doesn't look like he will. They'll probably have an incentive to pepper him often. 92 and a half is I think where his prop is right now at Chalkboard. That's a fun one. And then Devin Achane looked great against a very good Ravens rush defense. The Bills rush defense is not that great, even though their defense is stabilized. I'm very curious to know what the props come out on Achane because I think he could have a big week. But he's banged up. He's dealing with a toe and rib injury. Tyreek's banged up. Miami, like on paper, seems super banged up, but in terms of like home dog, win the division, end this, second offseason collapse in a row, I kind of like the narrative stuff behind them. But then when you dig into it and the injuries and you dig into where the Bills can beat them, it just doesn't look that great for Miami.
Yeah, so I'm definitely taking the Bills here. I think it'll be a close one. I'd be shocked if they blow them out a second time, especially on the road. But at the same time, it just feels like these are 2 teams going in kind of opposite directions right now. So I feel pretty confident about the Bills. I don't know what I would suggest with the total. That's a ton of points. The Bills are stingy defense. Like I'd probably lean the under, but I don't really feel good about touching the total there. I'd probably just take the Bills and call it a day.
All right. I like your slip, though. Josh Allen, anytime touchdown. Stephon Diggs, over 60. Tua, over 224. If you take that, you put $20 in, you can triple your money, essentially up to $67. I like that a lot. Promo code RTM to double your deposit on Chalkboard Fantasy Sports. All right, moving on to the next matchup here. And this is, I wanted Aidan to cover this. And then he said, I don't think I should because of bias here. But it's Bears at Packers. This is Justin Fields' legacy game here. Fields essentially, I mean, the chatter online, I don't know if it's true. But if he goes in and beats the Packers, eliminates them from playoff contention, and the Bears win 8 games, it'd be pretty hard to move on from Justin Fields. Is that kind of the consensus in Bears fandom? Curious to know your thoughts on that before we dive into the actual game.
Yeah, personally, I think Ryan Poles already knows what he's doing. But the more I think about it, like this is a huge moment. You knock out your rival, like the fan base is going to just be like all in if Justin Fields goes out there and embarrasses the Packers. Like that's definitely part of the decision. Like the ownership is going to have a say in what they do at the quarterback position. So if they lose, I'd be shocked if he comes back. If he wins, does it help his chances? I don't know. But I personally think the choice has already been made. regardless, I'm cheering for Justin Fields. Just huge game for the kid. He deserves it. So, yeah, I'm fired up. It's going to be a good one.
It's a relatively even matchup on paper. So in terms of like pace, they both play pretty slow. They're not turning and burning a ton of plays. They're kind of a run first offense or very play action first offense, right? The Packers, in terms of DVOA, are 8th in offensive DVOA. Shout out Matt LaFleur and shout out Jordan Love. What a phenomenal season those two put together. But 28th in defensive DVOA. If they even had just a middle of the road defense, this team would probably have 11.
Yeah.
11
Joe
wins.
Barry's getting fired.
Joe Barry,
like, Joe Barry's for sure getting fired.
Think of all the first round picks that they put into this defense, and they have the 28th ranked defense in terms of DVOA. Not a good look.
Yeah, no, not a good look.
On the other side of things, the Bears are 20th in offensive DVOA. So that includes some Tyson Bagent games, right? And some up and down performance. But they're 14th in defensive DVOA. Their defense has been fantastic, especially here on the second half of this. And like over the past 6 weeks, Aidan,
they're probably like top 10.
Their entire team has been like 8th in DVOA. Yeah. So they've been one of the best teams in football quietly since the Montez Sweat trade, since Justin Fields came back from injury.
Yeah, it fucking sucks.
This team has been playing super well. If it wasn't for a couple late fourth quarter collapses, probably it's the other way around where the Packers are trying to eliminate you from playoff contention.
Yep.
The Packers are 3-point favorites, and 79% of the money right now has been on the Bears. So the Bears are a team people are very much interested in betting this week. The Packers defense is really the story of this game, in my opinion. They've been really bad. They gave up 30 points to Bryce Young. They gave up like 40 points to Baker Mayfield. They let Tommy DeVito beat them. So this defense did put up a pretty good performance against Minnesota, but they played Jaron Hall, so it's really hard to get an idea of really how they would have played if Nick Mullins had played a few full 4 quarters, or even someone who's competent.
Yep.
So I really feel like this Packers defense, which is good at stopping passing, but is bad at stopping the run, is kind of setting up for a big Bears game, in my opinion. And the bet that I really like the most, and it's hard for me to bet the Bears outright because they've had so many late season collapses. I mean, late second half collapses because they are a super young team. But I really like the Bears team point total in this one. When I checked this at the beginning of the day, it was 21.5. It is now 20.5. Now it is minus 130 odds. So you're going to have to give up a little juice. But I think this is a really solid bet to take the Bears over 20.5 points scored. So I really like that bet. I think regardless if Bears win or lose, I think they're fully capable of scoring 3 touchdowns in this game based off the fact that the Green Bay defense is just not good and they're not good at stopping the run. And the Bears rush offense looks awesome. I don't know why it took them 14 weeks to realize Khalil Herbert is their best back. This is a guy that I was in on at the beginning of the season in fantasy. Drafted in a bunch of leagues. It was a bit of disappointing. I still believe in him and his talent, and you're seeing that on display. Speaking of Khalil Herbert, he has the second most rush yards of any running back in the NFL over the past 2 weeks. He has 236 rush yards, and he has the most rush yards via zone concepts. Green Bay has been pretty bad at stopping the zone run scheme. So you have to think Khalil Herbert is going to get busy here. Another stat that I thought was really important too, the Packers have given up the second most rush yards to QBs this season. So they struggle with the zone run, and they give up a ton of rush yards to running quarterbacks. That's kind of setting up quite nicely here for both Justin Fields and Khalil Herbert. So when I'm building out my player prop slip, they're going to be heavily featured.
Yep.
2 other guys on the other side of the ball that I like. I really like Aaron Jones, and I don't necessarily love Aaron Jones as a runner in this one because the Bears' rush defense has been stout. They've given up the 3rd least amount of rushing yards. They're quite good at stopping running backs on the ground. However, this Bears front 7 has given up the 2nd most receptions, the most receiving yards, and the 2nd most receiving touchdowns to running backs this year. Aaron Jones hasn't gotten super busy as a pass catcher of late because Jordan Love's pretty aggressive at looking downfield, but I would not be shocked if we saw Aaron Jones do quite well catching the ball out of the backfield against the Bears. And Jayden Reed,
on top of that too,
yeah,
AJ Dillon's actually not playing too, so he's going to be busy. He's going to be extremely busy. I forget their 3rd string back. I saw he's banged up too, but is expected to play, so it's going to be a pretty heavy dosage. of Aaron Jones, I would assume, unless there's a fourth running back I'm unaware of there.
I mentioned that over the past 2 weeks, Khalil Herbert was first in rush yards. Aaron Jones is number one. So we have two of the best in running backs over the
He
past
just
couple
came
weeks
off a huge game last week. He
against the
didn't hit
Vikings
home on
rush
any
defense,
touchdowns. Yeah, which is pretty good too.
Which is pretty good. So
yeah, he had a good game.
that's I think Aaron Jones props are going to be fun to look at. When you hear his receiving yardage prop, I think you're going to get pretty excited. And then the last guy that I wanted to highlight, it wouldn't be me talking about the Packers without talking about Jayden Reed. Jayden Reed here has been pretty strong against zone coverage this season, doing a lot of damage. Bears, they've been really good in man concepts. They have really good cornerbacks, but when they slip into zone, they have been able to get beat by receivers. So I like Jayden Reed out of the slot versus the zone. So when I'm building out my slip here specifically for Chalkboard Sports and in this game, and I'm going 4 legs because I'm feeling a little greedy. I probably shouldn't go 4 legs. Yeah, that's kind of our,
Frisky Friday.
Rule,
let's go.
Our rule here. So I have Khalil Herbert 59.5 rush yards. I took that down. I've got Justin Fields over 39.5 rush yards. I took that down. Aaron Jones receiving yardage prop is 15.5. So I left that and let it be. And then I took Jayden Reed's receiving yardage prop down to 39.5. I put down $10. We're not going crazy here, all right? Nothing nuts. $10 to win $50. So you can 5x your bet if all 4 of these hit. And I feel pretty good about that. So
Jayden Reed should play. I know he's been limited all week, but he's going to play, right? Like I haven't seen any official ruling on him. I've been kind of following their whole wide receiver core is questionable.
So again, in this game, I'm taking Bears over 20.5 team total, minus 30. So you'll have to lay a little extra juice, but I feel really good about it. And then on Chalkboard Sports, link in the description to download the app, promo code RTM to double your first deposit to get in on the action. Khalil Herbert over 59.5, Justin Fields over 39.5, Aaron Jones over 15.5 receiving yards, Jayden Reed over 39.5 receiving yards. 5x your money with that slip. All right, last game of the week, and I think it's the one that it's on Saturday night, and we're pretty pumped to watch. It's two of kind of the under the radar fantasy darling teams this season.
Totally.
And that is the Houston Texans at the Indianapolis Colts. Win and get in. It's basically a playoff game for these two young teams with first-year head coaches. Aidan, tell us a little bit about this game and how you're approaching it.
Yep. Yeah, as Shaun mentioned, the Saturday night game, huge implications here. Win and you're in. Winner could even win the AFC South. They need a Jaguars loss. But win and you're in with at least the 7th seed there. So, again, divisional matchup. These guys have already seen each other. The Colts won back in week 2, 31-20, but these are entirely different football teams. Anthony Richardson was still out there. CJ Stroud was, in game 2. Very different football teams. So, I'm kind of just throwing that one out. What have you done for me lately? We're moving on. As Shaun alluded to before we started recording, should probably just be a pick 'em. But whatever. Colts they're 9-7 ATS, 4-4 at home. Texans pretty similar, 8-8 ATS, 4-3 away. So pretty consistent, about 500 both ways for both of those teams. The total is what we're really excited though. I wouldn't touch the spread. I couldn't tell you who's going to win this game. I'd probably lean Texans personally. I like CJ Stroud. Dude's an absolute gamer. That's probably the direction I'd go. But the total is what we're really excited for here. The total is 47.5, opened up at 46.5, so moved up a little bit. People are feeling some points. The Colts are an NFL best 11-5 against the over, so pretty friendly. Lots of points, including 7-1 as the home team. The Colts are 7-1 covering the over as the home team, which is pretty awesome. You go into that dome, and the over cashes damn near every time. Texans are 6-10 against the over, including 3-4 as the away team. So not as friendly as the Colts. Me and Shaun are both leaning over here. I think this is going to be an absolute shootout. Neither defense is very good. Should be a ton of points. The Colts work pretty quick. In terms of pace, like on paper, this stacks up to be the quickest game of the week.
Shootout,
they're going to be absolutely running and gunning. Should be an awesome game to cap off Saturday night. just looking at these two teams and kind of how they match up on paper, the Colts score the 10th most amount of points in the NFL and are the 5th worst on defense in terms of points allowed. Texans are pretty close in both of those. They're a little worse on offense at 14th compared to 10th, and they're the 13th best defense in the NFL. So about league average at both of those, whereas the Colts are, closer to, the ends of the spectrum in both of theirs. So again, matches up pretty well on paper. We're in a dome too. Shout out our dome bros out there listening.
Dome bros.
Dome bros. Should be a good one though. Really excited for this one. There's a couple props that I really like. A couple incentives too, actually, that are pretty that will be weaved into this game. The first one that I want to talk about is Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary, just in terms of his incentives, I don't think he's going to get this, but it's something to be aware of. He's 165 yards off from eclipsing 1,000 yards, which would net him a $125,000 bonus. He's gone over 100 just 3 times this year. His season high was 150. The Colts are the 4th worst defense in terms of allowing yards to the running back position at just over 108 per game. So whether he hits that or not, I think Devin Singletary is going to be heavily involved. He's proven to be the better back in the second half of the season. His number right now on Chalkboard is 63.5. I think that's really generous. I'm taking the over as is. You can take it down to 49.5 if you'd like, or even go crazy and take him up to 89.5. Pretty wide range there. So really like Singletary. I think that defense has just been getting gashed by running backs all year. Second one I'm going to take is the quarterback on the other side, and that's Gardner Minshew. Dude just slings the rock. I'm taking his attempts. I think they're going to be passing all night long. Give me over 33.5 attempts. You can bring this one down a bit and up a bit too, either down to 29.5 or up to 37.5. If I was to take any 3 of these, I've got one more. I would probably take Minshew down to 29.5, but I personally feel comfortable with 33.5. He's hit this in his 4 of his last 6. So they just put the ball in his hands and just let him rock. It's just Gardner Minshew's world. We're living in it. The last one that I want to put in there,
little ass boy. Did you see that on Twitter where he was like the Max Crosby thing? Like, Max Crosby just keeps calling us little ass boys.
He keeps yelling at me.
He goes, I know I'm a little ass boy on the field, but out there I'm not. I'm like very much don't have facial hair and long hair, and I'm not from the South, so I'm not the biggest like Gardner Minshew supporter, but seems like he's pretty electric. He's pretty fun.
Just seems like an absolute dude. Just
guys
cool
being
guy.
Dudes.
Right. The last one I want to do is my boy Nico Collins. This guy absolutely shines when CJ's under center. Just plain and simple. I'm taking his catches over 5.5. You can move that up or down 1 to 4.5 or 6.5. Back in week 2, sorry. He absolutely cooked them. 7 catches for 146 yards and a touchdown. I figure he's going to be pretty busy. Tank Dell is gone. Rest in peace to your leg. I'm sorry. Just so sad. But yeah, no, he absolutely cooks with CJ under center. So really like that number. I'd be surprised if he isn't, near the 10 target mark. So I think he clears 5.5 pretty easily. Those 3, if you do 20, I didn't move any of them. I would move Minshew out of any of them, but this one here is just taking them all chalk as is. You could 6 times your money here. So 20 nets you about $124.
Wow. Okay, so what was this one again?
I've got Singletary over 63.5 rushing yards.
Okay.
Minshew over 33.5 attempts.
Okay.
And Nico over 5.5 receptions.
Link in the description. Promo code RTM. 6x your money on Chalkboard. If
6x your money. Yep.
We're going to follow up with all this on our Twitter accounts. If you follow us on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, at RTM Fantasy, we'll follow up more. So if you want to take the slip there. Yep. Notes on this game. So the look ahead line on this game was 42.5, and it's jumped all the way up to 47.5. So it opened 46. We're all the way up to 47.5. The totals have gone over in 7 out of the last 8 Colts home games. So
what was that stat?
The totals have gone over in 7 out of the last 8.
Oh yeah,
Colts home games.
Yeah,
We're,
no, it's electric.
we're feeling really good about that. Shane Steichen turns up the pace, and the Texans and CJ Stroud have no problem answering back up with that pace.
Oh, yeah, no.
I love that.
Yeah, they're down to hang.
The Colts have 18 rushing touchdowns this season, which is the 7th most in the NFL. The Texans have allowed the 18th rushing touchdowns, which is the 6th most in the NFL. JT, looking at you. Could be a good week for you. The Texans have sacked the quarterback 18 times since week 14, which is the most in the NFL. The Colts have allowed their QBs to be sacked 13 times since week 13, tied for 7th most in the NFL. Will Anderson has a big game. I think Will Anderson is going to lock up Defensive Rookie of the Year. Earlier in the week, I got him at plus 350. If you can get him at plus odds, I would take a look at. No, Carter.
Or is it Jalen Carter?
Carter was minus 700.
Last,
Carter was minus 700 heading into last week. Odds have shifted dramatically in the futures market for that. So if you can still get Will Anderson at plus odds, I would take it, because I think that he's going to take Defensive Rookie of the Year this week.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance. I've had Texans fans killing me on Twitter all season for my off-season takes. I've been fighting for my life out there.
Stroud and Anderson turned out to be a pretty dope.
Yeah, I still don't agree with the trade, but it worked. It's bad business, good result. It's bad business. Good.
Look, same people said Montez Sweat was bad business, right? Sometimes just trading for good players works.
Crazy how that works, right?
All right, you want to move on to the incentives here that we've got, some fun ones to look at?
There was one more in that game too, actually, that I wanted to highlight that I forgot about.
What do we got? Dalton Schultz?
Dalton Schultz has a couple there. He needs 6 catches to cash a $250,000 bonus, which there's a second one. I think this one's more realistic. And he needs 107 yards for another $250,000 bonus. So both pretty tricky. He's gotten 6 catches just 3 times this year. So it's not like he's doing this often. He did have 7 targets week 2 against Indy. So he was involved. He had 4 catches. He gives up on average just over 5 catches a game to tight end. So I think if he hits either, I think they're going to be trying to get it to him too, especially if early on he gets a couple catches. I feel like the QBs are always trying to get their boys paid. So maybe we're sprinkling a Dalton Schultz, over receptions. His line's probably, if I had to guess, 2.5, maybe 3.5. You can probably move it around a little bit if you want, maybe by 1. So just another one to be aware of there.
All right. I like that. All right. So moving on to incentives and record base prop bets that we like this week. A lot of these aren't up on Chalkboard, so when we do eventually get our slip out, it's going to be on our Twitter account at RTM Fantasy. So make sure to follow us there if you aren't. I think 3 players look really good from an incentive spot, and the 3 are Baker Mayfield, Austin Ekeler, and DeAndre Hopkins. So check this out for Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield's going to make $300 additional $1,000 for finishing top 10 in the NFL or top 5 in the NFC in passer rating. He can make an additional $300K on top of that for finishing top 10 in the NFL or top 5 in the NFC in TD passes. He's currently tied for 4th in the NFL and the NFC. And then in terms of passer rating, he's currently 9th in the NFL and 5th in the NFC. So he's trending to get $600K. Baker Mayfield makes $300,000 for finishing top 10 in the NFL or top 5 in the NFC in passing yards. He's currently 8th in the NFL and 5th in the NFC. So he's on pace to make an additional $900K. You guessed it, another $300K for finishing top 10 in the NFL or top 5 in the NFC in completion percentage. Currently 18th in the NFL and 11th in the NFC, so not trending for that. He can make an additional $300K for finishing top 10 in the NFL or top 5 in the NFC in pass yards per attempt. He's currently 10th in the NFL and 7th in the NFC. He's pacing to make an additional $1.2 million in incentives. This is a must-win game against one of the worst teams in the NFL in Carolina. If the Bucs win, they are in. Baker Mayfield has $1.2 million on the line here. I've got to imagine he has a good game. So we're going to be taking the over on Baker Mayfield props. Next guy we have here is Austin Ekeler. Austin Ekeler needs 110 scrimmage yards to earn $100,000. He needs 110 scrimmage yards to earn $100K. So this is a meaningless game against Kansas City, but these were the incentives that Ekeler held out for at the beginning of the season. He's probably going to be playing against backups. Again, $100,000 if he goes over 1,100. If he goes over 110 scrimmage yards. If he goes nuclear, right, and he gets an additional 150 on top of that, he has an opportunity to get an additional $100,000. So we're looking at $200K on the line for Austin Ekeler. I think he has a big week, even in a meaningless game. And then last but not least, DeAndre Hopkins. So listen to these incentives here. So DeAndre Hopkins needs 7 receptions to earn $250K. DeAndre Hopkins needs 39 receiving yards to earn $250K. DeAndre Hopkins needs 2 receiving touchdowns to earn $250K. I don't think he's going to score 2 touchdowns. Definitely possible. But DeAndre Hopkins over 39 receiving yards, over 7 receptions, after Mike Vrabel said he's playing his starters, seems like a very good bet, in my opinion. So
the yards especially for me. I had the yards ones down on mine. 7 catches, I don't love, but 39 yards, especially with his like deep, that could be 1 catch. No, I absolutely love that one. I for sure take that.
We will get more information on what this slip will look like as they release it, but we are probably going to build out something that's centered around Baker Mayfield, Austin Ekeler, and DeAndre Hopkins. And if you're playing in a state where gambling's legal, you can go off a chalkboard and just take those prop bets on FanDuel or wherever else you bet, right? So on chalkboard specifically, we're probably going to lean on these 3. Do you have any other incentive guys that I missed? We've covered a lot of them.
I've got 1 incentive and then 2 records.
I got records guys coming up after this.
Okay. Then I've just got 1 more incentive. Joe Mixon, 2 touchdowns to make 100,000.
Okay.
I don't think's crazy. I think, he scores early. They might be pushing to get him a second touchdown later on in the game. Again, not a very meaningful game, but another one. But yeah, no, I had all the other ones you did.
And then in terms of records, Tyreek Hill needs 248 receiving yards to break the single-season record. I don't think he hits it. No. Sam Laporta needs 1 reception to break the tight end rookie record. I think that happens. Sam Laporta needs 217 receiving yards to break the tight end rookie record. I do not think that's going to happen. Nope. Puka Nacua needs 4 receptions to break the rookie record. I believe that will. Puka Nacua needs 29 receiving yards to break the rookie record. I think that will happen. Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts are currently tied for the single-season record for rushing touchdowns by a QB. So we'll see. It's kind of dueling banjos. I love a Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts anytime TD parlay together. That's pretty fun.
Oh, for sure. No, I'm definitely firing one up.
That was fun. AJ Brown needs 50 receiving yards to set the Eagles single-season record. I think that'll happen.
Absolutely.
Mike Evans needs 2 receiving touchdowns to set the Bucs single-season record. I think it's his own record from 2021. I don't know if he hits that, but it's definitely a possibility. We love the Baker overs. Yeah. Travis Kelce needs 16 receiving yards for his 8th straight 1,000-yard season. Seems pretty clear that they'll play him and get him 16 yards. Yeah. And then Terry McLaurin, he needs 54 receiving yards for his 4th straight 1,000-yard season. This one's a favorite one of mine. I think Terry's going to get this. So I think when I'm building out a record slip, I love Josh Allen anytime touchdown. I love Terry McLaurin over 49.5. I kind of like Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown. Or we get AJ Brown in there, bring his line down to whatever it needs to be to get him over 50. Those are the ones I really like.
Yeah, just to add to AJ Brown, Devonta Smith was ruled out too. So I'd assume he's going to be pretty busy. I wouldn't say it's a meaningless game.
They need to win it for the division, right?
They need Dallas to lose though, so it's like I forget who's Dallas is playing. It's unlikely.
Washington. Dallas is playing Washington. They're like 13-point favorites.
But like I think it'll still matter about like they're going to be playing to win at least through the first couple quarters. They'll probably put the starters on ice once it's out of hand. But yeah, no, I like AJ Brown a lot. I think 50 yards is super easy, especially with Devonta out.
Well, this is it for week 18. That's it for the regular season. Aidan, we've covered 18 weeks, man.
That's all we got. We're all out of weeks. It's
Bears are going to win. Bears are going to win, baby. Come on.
If they don't, everyone's got to be nice to me.
I don't think that's how our friends operate, unfortunately. That's not really how our friends
No, we're going to win. We don't even need to go down that path. Right. We're going to win.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Until next time.